welcome to another episode of the Tip Balls Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Randazzo, and it is a gargantuan, epic, iconic, massive, tremendous, larger-than-life victory Monday as our very own Detroit Lions have now not only taken the 1 seed, not only have a home field advantage, not only beat the 14-2 Vikings, but are tied for the best record in the NFL. I have two co-hosts that I must introduce, one of them being the one and only Uncle Sam.
Hello.
And to his right or left, I don't know, but on my right of him.
My left.
What?
My left.
Your left, but my right, because you're on the left and he's on the right. So on the right side of the screen, it's our very own Mr. Zolo, Mike Pellizzolo.
Good afternoon. Happy New Year.
It's a happy New Year. It's a happy Victory Monday. It's a great afternoon. It doesn't get much better than this. Gentlemen, how was your weekend?
Good now.
Uncle Sam, any high points, low points, pits, peaks? You were the only one here who took the Minnesota Vikings?
Yeah, I was, I don't know, man. The Sam Darnold that we watched yesterday is the Sam Darnold that played for the Jets.
Oh, wow.
How was your weekend, Sam? What have you been doing down there?
What have I been doing? Today I woke up. Shout out to Wake Up Marco for providing me with my coffee needs every day. Then I went to have lunch, and then I came back and did a nice 2-mile walk, quick one today because some clouds rolled in. It looked like it was about to storm. After that,
let's hear about the breakfast buffet. I don't want to hear about you trying to convince everybody you're healthy. Go ahead.
No, I did not. No breakfast. I actually had a nice grilled mahi taco for lunch today. Been mixing in some smoothies. Been staying.
Grilled what?
Grilled mahi taco.
Oh, okay.
Have you been to Doreen's?
No, Doreen's is off my list.
What happened?
I no longer co-sign Doreen's. The only good thing there is the muffins. You got to wait an hour and a half to sit down. That's not my vibe. I'm not waiting, and I don't want a muffin. I've realized something. I'm not a breakfast person. I'm not about the breakfast buffet. I'm not about breakfast food in general. Like yesterday, we went to some place that it was Sunday, so everywhere does brunch. We were there at 10:30, and I got the sesame chicken tender salad. I'm not about the breakfast thing these days.
What's that little island, Capri? What are the restaurants there?
That's actually where I was for lunch today. I was at the world famous Island Gypsy on the Isles of Capri.
Yes.
Great lunch. Lunch.
I gave fries to a pigeon last time I was there.
Yeah, see? I mean, it's the vibes were immaculate. Today was nice and warm. We had a 75-degree day today. Tomorrow, we're going to get a cold front. It's going to be in the low 60s most of the day. So, a little bit
terrible.
more.
25 here.
You know something? I took up reading.
What are you reading?
I read an entire book.
Which book?
I'm reading currently Aster, and even though it was written by what's his name, Anderson Cooper, which kind of deterred me, I decided to give it a read, and we got like 80 pages left to go. Should finish it up tomorrow. It's about it. That's all that's really happening.
Allie's popping off in the chat. Allie wants me to defend Doreen's right now. Allie, Doreen's is good. It's not great. I make really good eggs at home. Sam has a point about waiting in lines. I've been to very few breakfast places where I go somewhere and I'm like, I'm craving that. We need to go there. Doreen's is just a mom and pop breakfast spot. And usually mom and pop is good for white people. It's not good for me. I need cinnamon roll pancakes. I need
what does that mean?
We're not mom and pop anymore. That's the problem.
What does that
white
mean?
people can go get their flapjacks with the butter and Aunt Jemima and call it a day. And they call that a good breakfast. My eggs need to be cooked with cream fraiche.
Excuse me.
I'm not getting that at Doreen's.
What's cream fraiche?
No.
It's the cream that you guys put on the tacos at the end.
Okay.
See, this is the problem with Doreen's. The menu's geared towards children, which is why Allie enjoys it. You get the fruity pebbles pancakes and the milkshake that they throw, a Cocoa Puffs milkshake with a shot of rum in it at 9:30 in the morning. It's gross.
What's wrong with
And
that?
No. You start your day out like that.
As long as they're putting
things.
they got to be putting some Kraken in there, and I'll drink that.
The problem, you start out your day with that, you're guaranteed two things. One, you're going to shit yourself all day. And two, you're slow, you're bloated. It's just and the third thing is you got to wait out in the parking lot for 45 minutes to get a mediocre at best breakfast. I'm not doing that. I'm not waiting in a parking lot for breakfast. Not happening.
Where's Mitchell Bob's? Where's the red place that they're talking about?
I will say, Doreen's is not mom and pop anymore. They own like 4 restaurants down here now, and they're all understaffed. They're all mediocre, but they just spend so much money marketing, and they're in a location across from the hotels where everybody goes there. And you're right. It's the Gen Pop. It's all the white people who come here for like, eight days a year, and they all have to go to Doreen's to get their muffins. I'm not about it. I'm out.
Real quick, we have some people to acknowledge in the TikTok chat if they're still here. Gavin says, W Lions. What up, Gavin? Gatorman313, breaking news. Jahmyr Gibbs just scored another touchdown against the Vikings. Yes, he did. And our old pal Jacqueline is in the chat. She said, huh?
Shout
Cream
out
with
to
the tacos? Bruce, she's talking to you. She's not talking to me. She's not talking to Sam. She's not talking to Uncle Sam. She's talking to you.
She's talking to the Scarecrow.
She's here for Bruce and Bruce only. Just here for Bruce. So, talking a little bit of football, how about them Lions? Lions obviously defeated the Vikings last night in pretty dominant fashion. Jahmyr Gibbs ties the record for the most touchdowns scored by a Lion in a single game. He also ended that game after scoring 4 times with, I believe it was 20 touchdowns, which led the league. All of that is kind of a moot point because the Lions ragtag, battered up defense that lost Terrion Arnold halfway through the game, got the spark they needed to essentially eliminate Sam Darnold from what he has been doing all season. And their defense looked phenomenal last night, in my opinion. Absolutely phenomenal. And the biggest shout out of all of them has to go to Amik Robertson for containing his old feud, which they showed on TV last night. Justin Jefferson down to, I virtually took him out of the game. He had 3 receptions for 54 yards. But compared to what number 1 receivers have done to the Lions all year, Amik Robertson essentially took Justin Jefferson out of that game. The pass rush was fantastic. I'll let you guys get into it a little bit deeper, but I think every single flower that we have is split between Jahmyr Gibbs and the Lions defense in a whole.
Yeah, they can't bury what's already fucking dead.
Amen.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. No. I completely messed that up. That's embarrassing.
I don't know what that means.
Excuse me. They can't bury what comes from the fucking dirt. That's my fault.
Their special teams were awful yesterday.
You're talking about the Vikings.
The Vikings. Their special teams were awful. I think the Lions got a gift. I thought that was a safety.
Oh, God.
Okay, whatever, dude. It was a fucking
Every
safety.
week.
I thought that was a
Lions
safety,
win
dude.
is a-
I get it. They did not call it one, but if you look at that play, that's a safety. I don't know how they dropped the ball on that.
That's fine. They
But
still
anyway,
didn't score a touchdown.
Didn't fucking matter. Eventually, it wouldn't have mattered. But I think it might have changed the complexion of the game a little bit. They would have been closer and getting the ball back. And then, Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was awful. He was missing wide open receivers when he wasn't being pressured. He did not have it yesterday. He did not look good.
I think one of the reasons Sam Darnold was awful yesterday, because I believe in what he did this year. I think he was great. I think Kevin O'Connell's done an outstanding job with Sam Darnold, but he is still Sam Darnold at the end of the day. It's why it took him a while to get the job that he got. Coaching, the biggest difference.
I thought Kevin O'Connell called a shit game. There was no safety valves. Obviously, they did not watch the Buffalo game. Obviously. You got one of the better receiving backs in the league in Aaron Jones, and you don't throw one fucking ball to him. I can't explain any of that. I thought the coaches dropped the ball. Their special teams were garbage. Darnold was not good. Their defense, their vaunted defense, got exposed in the second half. They really took one on the fucking chin.
It's not a vaunted defense.
They are. They're a very good defense.
Statistically, I think they're a good defense too, but
Yeah,
statistically,
they're
it's
very
not a
good.
top 12 defense. They give up.
No.
They get in shootouts and they win games because they control the ball at the end of games. Some good teams have dropped a lot of points on them.
Yeah,
They're
have
better
a
than the
good-
Lions.
listen,
They're better than the Lions defense.
Listen, their defensive line is very good, very good. Their linebacker core is decent. Their secondary is experience and youth. They're good. Listen, I think the Rams are going to have their fucking hands full with them.
I disagree.
I
I'll
think
pick.
the
I'll
Rams are
pick
gonna
that
have their
game.
hands
I'll pick that game right now. The Rams are winning on Monday
The
night.
Rams will win by at least 10 points.
And
The
the
Rams
Vikings
will
will
walk
go
the ball.
down with that'll be their fourth loss of the year. It'll be 2 to the Lions and 2 to the Rams because the Rams
Yep.
have the recipe to beat the Vikings, which is we're gonna sustain the tempo, we're gonna throw the ball, you're gonna try and stop us, and you
It
can't.
depends on which Ram team shows up.
Agreed, but defensively, what have the Rams done perfectly all year? Defensively.
Yeah.
They blitz. They get after the passer. Those young D linemen get after the passer. And I think that's what's going to happen. Going back to what Uncle Sam said, the biggest difference in the game was the coaching. Kevin O'Connell tried to out Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell, he failed every single time. Going for it on fourth down, going for it in the red zone the way he did. He failed every single time. Aaron Glenn had a flawless game plan. They don't blitz all year. And they decide to blitz, and Sam Darnold, who, if you recall, was seeing ghosts out there 6 years ago, was seeing ghosts yesterday. Sam Darnold had no way to get around the pressure, and the Lions D-line, which has looked miserable over the last month, they looked like world beaters yesterday. World beaters. Levi Onwuzurike had 9 pressures. Al-Quadim Muhammad was a monster. Za'Darius Smith, he only got the 1 sack. He probably should have had 2 more. That was the difference in the game, was the Lions' front 7, and that's why the secondary was able to play so good, because they didn't have to hold their coverage for as long as they normally do. Darnold's footwork was so off, and just credit to Aaron Glenn.
He was off from the get-go.
Yeah.
He didn't look
Shout out to Alex Anzalone as
when
well.
he was in
because
fucking warm-ups, he
Yeah,
didn't look comfortable.
Lights were too bright.
He looked, obviously that atmosphere got to him, and I got to a lot of them guys. I think he got to Jefferson. He started to lose his cool. He was losing his composure on every other play. He's throwing his hands up. I mean, they let these guys play, which was a plus for the Lions. They really didn't call too much pass interference, and I thought the Lions had a pretty good game plan. A couple things I didn't like. I didn't like the Jared Goff shot down the field there, coming out of the third quarter there.
I didn't either.
I didn't care for
I didn't
that.
either. Real quick on
Yeah.
that. I think that happened because the Lions also didn't have a lot of answers for the blitz. It worked.
Yeah.
It worked in the third quarter. They started getting open on the screen passes, and he started to
Right.
hold in the pocket. On that one in particular, I think if he wasn't in the end zone already, that wouldn't have been the play call. But it was totally a forced throw, and it was bad. Sorry, keep going. I didn't mean to cut you.
He I think Goff got lucky on a couple of those little screen passes. Van Keekel almost got one of them.
Did get another one.
He really destroyed Jahmyr Gibb on one that he threw the little screen to Gibb, and Van Keekel seen that right away and ate him up. And I just, you know what? They played a great game. They were at home, loud, noisy. They kept their composure early, even when it was only a 10-6 ball game. They kept their composure, and they continued to go on. Dan Campbell's the dude. He's the man. He's the man. He's the guy. They do not want to lose for this guy, and I think the mental aspect of it is huge. It's huge. It ain't about money. It's about not disappointing him.
Bruce, what did you think of the vibes yesterday in the building? What was your favorite moment? What were some highlights for you?
It was kind of just an average game, and if you really think about it, I mean, we were sculling by the third quarter.
It was not an average game.
Everybody was sculling. I mean, crowd-wise.
How did you get that answer wrong just now? It was not an average crowd.
Crowd-wise, it was just.
That seemed pretty average from when I was watching.
It was.
It didn't seem like
average
it was as loud as some of them games
I'm just
I
saying
watched
it's not
this
like
year.
it was basically. I wouldn't say it's the first round of the playoffs last year, but it was right below that. It was just as hype.
I think consistently it wasn't the first round of the playoffs. Like
Right,
from
right.
start to finish,
That
it wasn't.
opening
Right.
game this year was loud as
Right.
fuck.
Yeah,
That opening game
Listen.
this year
yes, that opening game
seemed like it
Listen.
was louder than yesterday.
A core memory in Ford Field, and I've been going to Ford Field a long time. I've seen a lot of moments there. A core memory in Ford Field was yesterday on that third down when they showed Aiden Hutchinson on the screen, and the place just absolutely. I've never heard Ford Field like that, even over the Derek Barnes interception last year against Tampa. The place just absolutely exploded, and it willed the Al Qadim Mohammed sack in the fourth quarter. That was because the crowd exploded the way they did. And then Anzalone in warm-ups, too. When they announced Anzalone's name in warm-ups, that was pretty insane. I've never heard...
I will agree with the Hutchinson thing.
When they showed Hutchinson, and he was on the sideline, so they've showed him before, and the crowd's gone crazy, but he was on the sideline, and he got into it.
The Barry chant. I was really mad about that. It's like these people forgot who he was. We tried getting that going, a couple of us.
Real quick, Sam, before we get back to you, the viewership just came into the game. It was a 28.5, which is the largest Sunday night football game since 2012. The Lions' mean ratings. I mean, they're going to pull. Of course, the circumstances were pretty high in that game, and I feel bad that the game probably didn't deliver on all the hype that it had, but you can blame Kevin O'Connell and the Minnesota Vikings for that one.
Well,
Can I
I thought
ask
it was a
a
good
question?
game. I like defensive games, dude. I like games like yesterday. That's good. Keep you on the edge of your seat.
I have a couple thoughts and takeaways. Number one, at what point do you have to start to bring into question Kevin O'Connell's ability to perform in a big game?
Can I stop you? Can I stop you?
Sure.
The staunch Vikings fans that I've seen on social media have been doing that for a while, and they are really pissed about last night. They think Kevin O'Connell cannot win a big game. They not that he can't win a big game, but that his teams are not prepared in big games, and they were not prepared last night.
I feel like it's starting to look a little Kyle Shanahan-esque with him. Because, I mean, I've been a Vikings hater all year because, again, you go up and down their schedule. There's a lot of field goal wins in there against the better opponents, and then they take care of business against their worst ones. But without question, their biggest matchups of the year were probably the most stout were the two against Detroit. Now looking back, to which they lost both, and that one where they had to go to LA when the Rams were hot, and they lost both those games. Both playoff teams. Their other wins against playoff teams came against Houston and Green Bay, which we think are weak. We all can agree that we think those are two of the weaker teams that made it in. I just don't know. Again, they went 14-3, so you have to give them their flowers there. But this Minnesota team didn't scare me. It still doesn't scare me, and I think that they still have that sniff of fraud to them, even with the almost impeccable record. That was number one.
I think you're going to see a lot better team coming this week than what you've seen yesterday. I think you'll see them. You'll see them be prepared for the Rams.
It's better by default though, because there's nowhere to go but up.
Exactly.
And I agree with you. I think they're going to be more well prepared, but but the Rams have that. I think if the Lions went to LA next week on Monday night, had they lost, I think the Lions would have lost that game Monday night.
I think so too.
I think whoever was going to LA, I sighed when it was. I think they had a 4th and 8 with 30 seconds left in the red zone. The Rams yesterday, they needed to score to win to get the 3 seed. I sighed because I thought to myself, well, the loser of this game is going to go there and lose next week because the Rams are probably beating the Lions and they're probably beating the Vikings.
Listen, if the Rams wanted that game, Stafford would have played.
Well, yeah, they weren't. I think the Rams didn't want the game because it played into them a little bit further to have the Lions or the Vikings go there. They had a Lions team they barely lost to in overtime week 1 and a Vikings team that they already beat. That's a pretty good yield for the Rams. And one of those teams was going to have to go to them, go to SoFi. So Sam, I think you're hitting the nail on the head. I think the Vikings are a really good team. They are not a great team. It's clear that they're not in the echelon. It's proven now. They just did some historic stuff with the third place schedule. They completely exceeded expectations. Kevin O'Connell's the real deal. I think he's one of the best coaches in football. I think they have
He's not coach of the year.
well,
Dan Campbell by far is coach of the year.
if Dan Campbell's the bar and the rival for coach of the year, how do you give coach of the year to the guy that lost to you twice?
Right.
I think that matters.
Dan Campbell showed he's the coach.
And I get the arguments on both sides. I get the Kevin O'Connell argument. Well, we had 6.5 wins preseason or 5. Well, the Lions hit their preseason win total and they did everything they were expected. Well, no, they weren't necessarily expected to win the 1 seed. And on top of that, the fashion that they did it with everyone dying on defense and everyone betting against them in the second half of the season. I think that counts for something. I think other coaches can be in the conversation as well. Jim Harbaugh should totally be in the conversation. Sean Payton should totally be in the conversation. But what Dan Campbell did over the last month, and what Aaron Glenn's done. Aaron Glenn is going to make a team very happy. He's going to make a team very happy, and I think he landed more interviews because of what he did last night. And I think it might not be the Saints. Like, there might be an unexpected fit. Like, Aaron Glenn to the Jets sounds really good. Can you imagine him with those defensive pieces? He did play there, didn't he?
You single-handedly you took my exact second point. That was the perfect audition, the final audition. That got Aaron Glenn because there was nobody who could come up besides him and that game with the Rams who could come up with a way to shut down Sam Darnold this year, and he figured it out last night and did it in perfect fashion. Aaron Glenn is going to go, you're right, he's going to go somewhere and make a team very happy. I'm wondering now, though, do we think that you're going to have any sort of drop-off or attrition? Because I think now there's no question that you're going to lose both Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. I think it's pretty much signed, sealed, and delivered.
I still disagree on Ben Johnson.
There's a part of me that does too, just a hair. But I think with the trajectory that this season is going to go now, I think with the way that I'm envisioning it ending, I think they're both gone.
If they win a Super Bowl, they're both gone. Period.
I don't know.
I think they're both gone.
The 3 teams. There's only 5 openings as of now. The 3
as of right now. I think that's going to change.
I feel like there would be more. The only thing I could think of is the Raiders. Maybe I feel like they would have happened at this point.
I think you're going to see a couple other guys lose their job by the end of this.
So for Ben Johnson, I still think he's going to be really selective about everything, including the situation. I can totally see Chicago happening. I think he's a perfect fit for Jacksonville, and I think if he can go to Jacksonville, he should. I think Jacksonville's position took a hit today by not firing Trent Baalke. I think that's going to be at play with whoever they hire. And then the Patriots would be a great fit for Ben Johnson. Drake May and pick 3. Like, that's outstanding. And they're going to have a ton of cap space as well. Like, I don't hate the Patriots job for him. But I think he's going to be really, really selective. I don't think he's going to go to the Jets. I don't think he's going to go to the Saints. Okay, if another job opens up, it's got to make sense. Aaron Glenn is as good as gone, though. There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to go but another team. I think he's ready. I think he's old enough. Ben Johnson might still be selective, especially if they don't win. I envision a scenario where Ben Johnson is going to get a job.
I think if they win a Super Bowl, these guys are going to have their pick of any job they want.
Oh, the job will be picked. Yeah. If they go to the Super Bowl, hold on. If they go to the Super Bowl, they're going to have that. They will know which job they're working before then. The coach will be in place before then. They just won't sign until after that.
Right.
I think Aaron Glenn, and realistically right now, I think he ends up with the Jets job, and I could definitely see Ben Johnson in Chicago, and I think Mike Vrabel ends up in New England probably without question. That one, I think, is the one that's already decided.
New England shit anymore, dude. I don't know about that.
I think that one is.
Something's telling me that possibly isn't what's going to happen there. I don't know.
I think if I had to bet on any of them, that's the one that I'm betting on. Because it is, and I heard Gronk yesterday, and they cut him off before he could go in on Robert Kraft. What logically, and I don't know why we're talking about this right now, because we should be talking about this with their game, which I guess we could go to that next if we've covered the lines.
Yeah.
To where everybody's sufficient. The Gerard Mayo thing to me, and I really thought in my heart of hearts on Friday it was going to happen regardless. I thought they would at least wait till today. They didn't even wait till today. That Gerard Mayo thing was already signed, sealed, and delivered long before yesterday's game. I really think if Robert Kraft didn't know exactly what he was going to do, he wouldn't have made that decision so quickly. Because if you look at this Patriots season, I'm not going to lie, it could have ended up a lot worse. They did find a franchise quarterback in Drake May. They do have some young pieces that they could start to build around. I mean, their receiving core, if they had any sort of competent offense to run, I think it would be better. And then he retains Elliott Wolf as some sort of position. They don't know if he's going to be GM yet or not. But their problem there is personnel. I don't necessarily know if it was an atrocious job from Gerard Mayo. So in my heart of hearts, I think the Mike Vrabel situation is as done as can possibly be done without them announcing it. Because it just makes the most sense. Mike Vrabel should have been the guy last year over Gerard Mayo.
I don't know if it makes the most sense.
I don't know about that.
I don't know if it makes the most sense because if you're Vrabel, you have the pick of the jobs. Like, yeah, you're there and you know it and you understand the culture and there's things to like. There's pieces defensively. There's Drake May.
I think you could see Vrabel in with the Jets.
Chicago.
I think he could be in with the Jets too.
Vrabel to the Bears makes a ton of sense to me. And then you bring
Zolo,
in
I have a question for you.
Huh?
Out of the 5 jobs that are open right now, which one do you guys both think is the least desirable?
The Saints.
I wouldn't agree with that. I think they got a nice young core there.
No quarterback. I think that matters.
Well, I mean, that could be. Listen, we've already seen just because you're coming into a situation where you have a quarterback. Look at Jared Goff. Jared Goff was left for dead, dude. You're going to see another one of these guys emerge like that. We've seen it with Geno Smith, and they're still in it. They're not out by any means.
The Saints have been doing that trial and error at quarterback, though, since Breeze left. That's the problem.
Well,
at some point, you need to get an answer.
They brought in Derek Carr. They had a couple of young guys they drafted, haven't been able to do the job. But there's been a lot of dysfunction with the head coach. That doesn't help things. But if you got a guy like Ben Johnson, an offensive-minded guy, that will come in there and use the Chris Olave and these guys as a unit, it could change that whole team around. I think their biggest downfall has been philosophy. I don't think it's talent. What do you think?
So which job do you think is the least desirable if it's not the Saints?
Out of all of them?
Yep.
I don't think any of them are not desirable, to be honest with you. I think the Jacksonville job is probably the best one out there because you have a young core of good players.
Jacksonville's
on
the best
that
job.
fucking team.
Jacksonville's a really good job.
That's a really good job. Chicago, another job. You got a young core there, a young team. I think that's a good job. The Jets, I think maybe the Jets might be the most shitty job out of all of them. Just because
the Jets job is without
you need fucking GM, you need coach, you need a whole bunch of shit.
Quarterback.
You need quarterback. That's going to be the hardest probably job to go to.
I'll say something nice about the Jets, even though their organization's garbage. They're doing the same thing the Lions did when they hired Dan Campbell right now. They're casting an extremely wide net. They're going to be thorough and they're going to talk to everyone. They've put in a request on everyone. They've interviewed guys that have been out of the league already. They're casting a really nice net, and I think that's going to be beneficial to them in the long term. But there's also a rumor.
I do too. There's a lot of talent on that team, so I don't think you're going to a fucking team that's just it's not like the Carolina Panthers or something like that. You're going to a team that has top talent on it. I think that's where that makes that job desirable. You got good young receivers, really good young running back. Your defense has outstanding guys on it. I mean, you couldn't fucking ask for more.
What do you think the worst job is, Sam?
Without question, the Jets. I think you're going to have a situation similar to past situations with Aaron Rodgers where he doesn't decide if he's going to be there till God knows when.
I don't think that's going to take that long to figure that out. I truly feel that if he's done, and he will let them know ahead of time. I don't think he's going to let them roll into the year and leave them screwed or anything like that. I don't see that happening. I think if he goes on his little darkness retreat, comes back and decides he doesn't want to play anymore, I think they'll just move on.
If he does decide to play, then what do you do?
If he decides to play, what do you do? Oh, I think you draft his successor. I think you draft a quarterback. You know.
See, this is one of the problems that I came because I was watching him do his post-game presser the other day, and I'm sitting here and I was thinking about it. And everything that I said about rookie quarterbacks in the beginning of the year, I'm now backtracking on it. I think it's false. All of these guys who got thrown into starting positions this year, for the most part, I mean, look at Bo Nix, Michael Penix, Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, but for
they're all those are your franchise guys. I think that if you have a new head coach coming in, one of my non-negotiables would be that Aaron Rodgers has to go. Because the expectation that you have coming into next year, if you're going to run it back as a new head coach there with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, is you are expected off the rip, much like this year, to compete for the division. And Woody Johnson said that after the game yesterday too. Every tabloid, everybody had us in a Super Bowl, and here we are, and our Super Bowl is this last game of the year. The expectation for the Jets has to go away. And with that, I think Aaron Rodgers has to
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I mean, if you got a chance to have Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback, especially as a new coach, I don't agree with that. I don't think you should have free run. I think you need to fire the OC, and if he doesn't like it, I think he can go with him. That's what I would do.
We keep going around the horn.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go next, Sam? Who did the Patriots play? The Bills? Do we want to talk about the Bills real quick?
Bills locked up the 2 seed. The Bills are going to host Denver this week, and they did not play anybody. They were still favored in this game. Josh Allen got his 1 snap to continue his start streak, but ultimately New England wins the game on the back of Joe Milton, who actually, from watching that game, I liked him. I thought he played a really nice game. I think if the Patriots can feel secure about anything right now, it's the fact that they have 2 good options for starting quarterback, and they can feel safe with Joe Milton in a must-play role. Well, granted, Buffalo play their starting defense, but I thought there were some things to like out of New England yesterday playing against the Bills' backups, because quite frankly, I thought the Patriots were still going to lose against the Bills' backups.
What did you think of Joe Milton?
I go back to Michigan
I look at
with
him,
Joe
I
Milton.
see Anthony Richardson.
I go back to Michigan. No, it's the opposite.
I see Anthony Richardson.
Because Anthony Richardson doesn't have an arm like Joe Milton. Well, he does, but Joe Milton can't run. Joe Milton can't run.
He got a cannon, though.
Joe Milton has underachieved everywhere he's gone. He underachieved at Michigan. Everyone thought that Heupel would resurrect him at Tennessee. He underachieved at Tennessee. He was third in preseason Heisman voting last year at Tennessee, and they didn't have a losing record, but he played really poorly. He's just a really raw. He's got an arm. I wouldn't buy too much into Joe Milton, Sam. I'll say this much about the Patriots. I don't know. Oh wait, we're not talking. I'm done talking about the Patriots. Can we talk about the Bills real quick?
Yes, please.
They're gonna lose next week.
Oh no!
Take my back, Uncle Sam. Please bite on this. The Bills are gonna lose to the Broncos next week.
I think they're gonna lose to the Broncos.
Thank you.
Thank you. I really do. I love what I see out of Bo Nix.
Thank you.
I think Bo Nix. That kid's the truth.
Sam,
I really like what I see.
Bruce, put Sam on the screen so I can see his face right now.
You don't like Bo Nix?
Look, I'm going to tell you something that's going to be a harsh truth about the Bills. They score a lot of points. When they are greeted by a defense, they don't score a lot of points. Case in point, what the Patriots did to them twice in the last 3 weeks. I know yesterday wasn't the starters. 3 weeks ago, it was the starters, though.
Right.
They
barely won that
they
game.
held them to 24 points. The Bills' kryptonite is running into defenses. They're running into a really good defense that's playing really well and an offense that's starting to click. And the weather will not affect Denver. Denver is not scared. They should have went into Cincinnati and won last week. They have a lot of. I mean, they should have beat the Chiefs on the road. It was a missed field goal, right? They have a lot of opportunities against better teams than the Bills, and they're right there. I could waver on this. I could change my mind on Friday when we pick the game. Right now, gun to my head, I think Denver goes in. At a minimum, it's going to be a close game. But I could totally see Denver going in. They're built to win that game. They are built to win that game. They have a quarterback that doesn't make mistakes. They control the tempo of the game with the way they run the football. They have a quarterback that's making timely throws, and they have a really good
A guy
defense.
that's putting the ball downfield, that's fucking
Yes,
accurate.
and an experienced coach. Who do you trust more, Sean McDermott or Sean Payton? Who do you trust more?
I trust Sean Payton more.
Don't be shocked, is all I'm telling you. Do not be shocked if Buffalo loses that game. They've been really underwhelming ever since they left Ford Field. That's just my opinion.
See, this is the thing that I agree. I like Denver's defense. I like their future. I like Bo Nix. I like all of it. The problem is they. If you look at their body of work this year, they lost to the Chargers twice. They lost in Cincinnati. They lost in Kansas City. They lost in Baltimore.
Okay.
They lost.
They
to
lost to what? Two MVP caliber type quarterbacks, and they lost to a team. Let me tell you something. The Chargers.
What's Josh Allen? He's
They're
going to
beating
be the
everybody.
MVP. So yes, they lost to the two MVP quarterbacks and have to go on the road to play a third. The only playoff team that they beat out of playing 7 was Tampa in Tampa. I'm not.
That's pretty impressive.
I'm not sold on it. But they lost the other.
I disagree.
6 games. They lost the other 6 games to playoff caliber talent. I'm not there yet, but we can discuss this further Friday. I mean,
that's fair. We can go in depth Friday.
New Orleans and Carolina and Atlanta and Vegas and Cleveland and all the other dog shit that they played.
So headed back to TikTok. I want to head back to TikTok real quick. Shout out to Brendan and Danny. They've appeared in the chat. Hope you guys enjoyed your vacation. Our old buddy Baldo Alvarado is always there. Danny's still bringing it. Or excuse me, Jacqueline's still bringing it. Christian Gonzalez, how are you? Josh Garcia _2004 wants our thoughts about the Texans. If you want my thoughts, Josh, I think they are fucked. I think Jesse Minter and Jim Harbaugh going against CJ Stroud at 3:30 on a Saturday sounds just what the doctor didn't order. I would love to see – I love this Texans team so much, and I would love to see them show a pulse. I don't see it happening. The Chargers are not a good enough team to show a pulse against. I would feel so much more comfortable if they were playing the Steelers. I would think that they would have a shot against the Steelers. You're going against a Chargers team that's kind of a wagon right now.
I think they have a chance against the Chargers if they can play good D.
Who would you pick in this game? Gun to your head right now. Who are you picking early on?
Who do I like?
Yeah.
I like the Chargers, but I don't see them. If they run roughshod through them and blow them out, then you better watch out.
Sam?
Chargers are 3-point favorites to open, and I would easily pick the Chargers.
Yeah, I agree. They're playing well. The Chargers are playing well right now.
I just don't get the Houston thing. I don't get why they are as watered down as they are. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, you're missing a lot of talent at wide receiver. That's great and all, but like, it's just even Davis Mills. But you're going up against Tennessee, and Tennessee always felt like they were in that game. I don't know. It's just not kosher there right now.
Yep, I agree with that.
You guys want to talk? Did I freeze?
Is it windy down there?
We're losing you at the moment. You're going in and out. We lost you at. Do you guys want to talk? Oh, there you are. Go ahead.
Welcome back.
You have your little one non-league blonde is in the
just
chat
walked-
thanking you for
just
the
walked
tickets.
away.
Hey,
You're back.
hello.
Hello.
Are you adjusting the antenna right now? Someone on the roof adjusting holding the antenna. Is this good?
Ain't no riff on
Bruce,
here.
come back here.
Anyway, so what do you want to talk about next?
Let's go. Let's keep going down the playoff horn. It's gonna be Packers Eagles. Some quick news on both teams. Jalen Hurts is still in the protocol, and Jordan Love is banged up. He's got an elbow issue of some sort, but he should be fine and should play. Christian Watson.
Okay.
Christian
he
Watson.
came back in. They just
Christian Watson has a torn ACL and is done for the year.
yeah, he's done.
What are you thinking in that game? That's Sunday. I believe that's Sunday afternoon.
I
by the way.
personally like the Eagles, but
Yeah, I think there's a
I've
lot
seen
of injuries on the
funnier things
Packers.
happen.
Can you envision a scenario where the Packers win?
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah, I could.
Same. I agree. Sam, Packers Eagles. What do you think?
Eagles walk him out of the building. This is okay. I just real quick. I want to make this easy. The only underdogs that are going to win, in my opinion, are the Rams and the Rams. That's it.
Chargers?
The Rams are the only dog that are going to win.
Oh, you're not talking about seeding. You're talking about betting underdogs.
Betting underdogs. The Rams are the only team because realistically, the seeding is great and all, but like Minnesota should not be a 5 seed. Okay, that's at the end of the day their schedules. I'm going to go off of the lines. Minnesota is the only favorite that loses. Other than that, I love Tampa Bay against Washington. Buffalo's a 9-point favorite hosting Denver. I think Denver could cover that, but Buffalo wins. I think the Chargers, even though they're a wildcard team going into a division winner, I think they win. And I'm sorry, but right now, if I couldn't be lower on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they are the worst team right now, today, in the playoffs.
Who?
Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh's the worst team in the playoffs.
I think I agree. I think I agree. Pittsburgh or Tampa. It's one of the two.
See, I think Tampa has something right now going on because they willed their way into that game yesterday.
That girl
I
in
think
the
that
chat
Baker
thanking us and everything. So give her a little shout out here.
has the sauce to beat Washington.
Well,
I really think he does.
He does have the sauce to beat Washington. I think the Commanders are going to win that game though. The way I evaluate these matchups is if you're equipped to beat a team and you're coached well enough, like if you game plan well enough, you will beat said team. Tampa almost choked that game away yesterday, and the Commanders are the kryptonite. They have the running quarterback. They have the receivers that get open in the middle of the field, and they have a defense that's starting to emerge a little bit since Lattimore's been back. You take Mike Evans out of the equation, there's only so much that Bucky Irving and Jalen McMillan are going to be able to do and carve you up. So
I really like Jalen McMillan. He's been money.
he's been good every week. He's been good every week.
He's been really good.
Yeah, he was great yesterday too. I think that's one of the reasons they won the game yesterday. I'm taking the Commanders. Just a heads up, which means the Commanders are, unless the Packers pull something off, it means the Commanders are probably coming to Ford Field next weekend. But I think the Commanders are going to pull it off in Tampa. I think they have the exact recipe to do it.
I don't know what I think some things might change throughout the week this week, but right now I think Tampa is going to ruin a couple people's seasons. I really do. What they did for Mike Evans yesterday was awesome to watch because I was watching that
up.
game.
That was extremely cool. That was awesome.
That was you could have took the knee and saved the $3 million. The fact that they did that was awesome. That was great to see them do. Can we talk about the Jacksonville and Indianapolis game?
Yeah.
The overtime win for Indianapolis, 26-23. Now, there was a lot of speculation that it was that game that cost Doug Peterson his job. I was all day on Twitter. I saw there were a lot of people talking that if Jacksonville could have found a way to win that game, Doug Peterson's job would have saved. 2 questions. Do you think he would have saved his job actually? And do you think he should be out of a job?
I don't think he would have won his job back yesterday. I think he was fired no matter what. And yes, I mean I don't know. I at some point I would have said no because I do believe Doug Peterson's a really good coach, but he did have Trevor Lawrence for segments of this year and they couldn't figure it out. And there's a lot of young talent on that team. Tank Bigsby's a star. ETN, I don't know what happened. I don't think it's ETN's fault. I think that's coaching. I think Trevor Lawrence is good when he's good. You have Brian Thomas, who could easily be one of the best receivers in the league as a rookie. As a rookie, he's that good. And there's pieces on defense. They have a top, what did they have, pick 3, pick 2? Reset it, but the Cons kind of got it wrong. Shad Khan got it wrong keeping Trent Baalke. I think that's one of the biggest stories of the day, is a guy that should have been fired, didn't get fired.
We'll see what happens. He ran it. Listen, he's got a very good team. They're not progressing, they're regressing. And that's the reason why he's fucking out.
Purgatory.
That's it.
What do you think, Sam?
You know, I don't know what was going on there with Jacksonville this year because we all thought that they would fight for the division to start out the year. I think a lot of people did. Because you're right. I don't know in my heart of hearts if it was really a Doug Peterson problem or if certain things are starting to align there. If Trevor Lawrence isn't really as good as he once was, they have a lot of offensive line woes. Their defense just never looked copacetic all year. I don't know. But ultimately, I think Doug Peterson's fate was decided before yesterday. I have a really hard time believing that it wasn't. The other takeaway I had from this game wasn't Jacksonville, but it was Indy. I really think Indianapolis going forward has some big, big issues that they have to address. I don't know what to make of their quarterback situation. I don't know how you fix it either. I mean, Anthony Richardson looks really good and then really bad. And then the Colts right now, I think, are the next team like Jacksonville that could get stuck in purgatory and continue to regress. And that's really, they have some really good guys on that team. And you saw it at times this year. There are some guys on in that wide receiver room specifically who are really talented. And for some reason, they just could not string together enough decent football to hop into that playoff spot. I mean, the loss to the Giants down the stretch. I mean, they lost games that they should have very easily won, and they just did not look like, especially in divisional games,
it was coaching. It's been coaching, and I can't believe that Steichen is keeping his job. I was kind of shocked about
and Chris
that.
Ballard. They're both jobs.
I mean, I don't know how you can blame a GM at this point. Even Baalke, say what you want to say about him. He's put together a pretty impressive young team. I mean, I don't think that you could just point the finger at a GM because your players are coming in. It's up to the coach to put these guys in a position to fucking do their best. And if he's not doing it, then he's got to go. So I'm shocked. I don't blame the GM on either one of those teams. I really don't. Like you said, there's a lot of talent on the Colts, but you know, I think the coaching is somewhat suspect. You got a second-year guy who's I don't know, he hasn't done very well there. I mean, I don't know what you do.
Yeah, it's kind of worrisome because I thought that Shane Steichen's name would be thrown around a lot more today than it was about him losing his job. I also think, though, at this point, they showed a clip of Jim Irsay yesterday. If you saw it online, it was pretty bad. I don't really know who's running the ship there at this point. But
I think he is.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me that Shane Steichen's still there.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Ballard, that's another situation that really they both should have been fired. But Chris Ballard is not good at roster building. I think that's trending in the wrong direction. And They have a culture issue. I love what Pat McAfee said about them. And then there was a clip after the game yesterday, Sam. I don't know if you saw it. Zaire Franklin went over to Pat McAfee's suite that's on the field, and it was empty. And he went over to pretend to slap hands with everybody. Like, to disrespect someone that's been in the city and bleeds more for it and understands it more than you do. I think that they have culture issues, and it's a mindset thing. And I think that organization needs a reset, and that would help an Anthony Richardson. That would help their receivers. That would help their defense. And they're not doing it. So, I've seen it here. I've seen lame duck regimes be able to come back in this city so many times. And all you do is you're setting the organization back another year by letting people make decisions that shouldn't be making decisions. So,
You mind if we jump to another game?
yeah.
I want to talk about
Excuse me.
the Kansas City and Denver game. There was, again, this was all from the Twitterverse, but there was some talk today of the fact that the Chiefs intentionally went into this game saying they were going to dump the game because of Cincinnati's win, because they'd rather have a situation where Joe Burrow was for sure out of the playoffs. Are we buying into that at all or no?
Okay, here.
Yeah, I do.
So I don't buy into it, but
Yeah.
even if it is true, first things first, if that is true, if I'm Kansas City, it's smart. I agree with you 100%. Number two, win your games if you're Cincinnati. Win the games at the beginning of the year. Win the games. Win one more
Absolutely.
game than you were supposed to, and you would be there.
Yeah, don't lose the games like they lost.
There's a rumor that Cincinnati filed a grievance over that happening and over the Chiefs resting players. That's their prerogative. They won their games. They were the 1 seed. They earned the right to rest their players.
Yeah,
Joe Burrow?
They lost the game and still got the 1 seed. So
Joe-
I don't know what the fuck they're complaining about.
Joe Burrow, if you want to complain, and it wasn't him complaining, it's an organizational thing, but as an organization, if you want to complain and file grievances, win your games. You didn't win your games. You deserve everything that happened to you. A better team, in my opinion, is getting in the playoffs in Denver than Cincinnati. And I know you guys might disagree with that because Joe Burrow is a legitimate MVP candidate, and Jamar Chase just put together one of the best wide receiver years of all time. Your defense is not stopping anybody in the AFC side of the bracket except for maybe Pittsburgh. That's it. That's the
Which
only
is
team
why
that
Lou
they're
Anarumo got fired today.
What'd you say?
Lou Anarumo, defensive coordinator for the Bengals, fired today. Thank God. That one was next to a guarantee as well because the writing was on the wall there.
I don't
100%.
understand why their defense was that bad. They're basically
Injuries.
the same core of guys that's been there for the last 5 years.
It's the injuries.
Yeah.
Is the injury.
Yeah.
I think that totally, they lost their whole secondary. I think that plays into what happened to them this year.
Should we talk about that game? Because that was that game for me, it looked like Cincinnati was trying to give Pittsburgh that game, and Pittsburgh did not want to take it. Russell Wilson, to me, did not look good against a porous Cincinnati defense. They couldn't really run the ball. I think Pittsburgh is on the brink of a full collapse. I don't think they make it out of week 1. They got the real short end of the stick as far as seeding goes. What are we going to do with Pittsburgh?
The trash takes itself out. They're the Mike Tomlin narrative. I think he's a great coach. I think it's really cool. If I were a fan of the Steelers, I'd be really upset about the constant purgatory. And at some point, the 500, the 1 game above 500 season, 2 game above 500 season that they put together every year in a row, all you're doing is you're hurting yourself from getting really good talent. At some point, they need to invest in a quarterback. At some point, they need to bring in a truly elite wide receiver. And at some point, they need to like change things up. Like they need to do better than what they're doing, you know. And I know they started hot, right? I sound lame, better than what they're doing, and I can't come up with better terms. They started hot and they're finishing poor because everyone around them got better and they're not getting better. They're just always consistently, we're going to rely on our defense and we're going to do just enough. You need to be more than that. You need to be a lot more than that. And they're one of the team. They're, in my opinion, they're the weakest team left in the playoffs, which is a far cry because I had them as a Super Bowl contender back in October. They're not that. Like they've totally regressed, and
You know what? Here's it's really hard to call right now. You're going into the first round of the playoffs. Let's see what happens, because their defense is good enough. They can run the football.
defense ain't good enough,
You
dude.
never know at this time of the year, especially when playoffs start, the level of play. They have experience in the playoffs. I don't agree with the Mike Tomlin statement, because you could say the same thing about John Harbaugh.
There's
You
a
could.
cult. No,
Yeah.
no, there's
you
a
could
cult.
you
I
could
think-
easily.
Yeah.
And I think
And,
I think this is a shitter get off the pot playoffs for John Harbaugh.
I think it for all of them, for both of them, you know. But I mean, coaching is just like quarterback. You can get a lot worse at that position than better fast. I truly believe that. And you can say what you want to say about these guys. I would take either one of them over Mike McCarthy. Would you?
Yeah, but Mike McCarthy's
I mean,
gonna have a job next.
I mean,
Mike McCarthy.
I'm
gonna
not a
have with the
Sean
Bears.
McDermott guy. I thought he should have been fired last year. I thought he's underachieved more than these other guys.
He's gonna be in purgatory territory
Yeah.
if they lose next week. Sean McDermott.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Hey, anything can happen at this point, dude. You never know. You never know, dude. Look what happened. Look at that. Look at a couple of years ago when the 49ers were running a rough shot through everybody, and Purdy went down. They were done. Put a fork in them. You know. Same
You
thing
wanna know what's
could
funny?
happen to these other teams.
So Tomlin's the longest tenured coach in the NFL right now.
Yeah, and Harbaugh's right behind him.
Well, but the funny thing is because I agree with you, Mike McCarthy is awful. If I told you that they had less than 10 games separating them in all-time record, both had one Super Bowl, and
Right.
Mike McCarthy's record in the playoffs is better than Mike Tomlin's, that to me starts
As
to
of recently.
No, as of all time.
Yeah.
I agree 100% with what Zolo said. At some point, the mediocrity, because that's what it is. Mike Tomlin's touted because he makes the playoffs every year. But you're and it. The quarterback thing is a joke because Russell Wilson is not the answer. Their defense is good. Their defense is great every year. But you have your star wide receiver who has some sort of issue because every week you see George Pickens' name somewhere about something. I don't know. I think that Pittsburgh is at a point where if they're going to do a rebuild, they need to do a rebuild and they need to consider doing it without Mike Tomlin.
Yeah. It's not gonna happen, but yeah.
Any other games that you guys want to touch on?
Not necessarily games, but I mean, there's like I want to go over some situations. You know, I'd love to.
Oh, I would love. Actually, I have one I would love to talk about.
Yeah.
The Atlanta Falcons.
Oh, that was next. Great minds think alike.
Carolina beat them 44-38.
Talk about a staff that should be fired.
Everybody.
I think the Falcons completely collapsed. They still didn't win that game yesterday.
Their defense was awful, dude. They were awful.
Whose fault is that, though? The head
You
coach?
have a
No,
defensive
dude.
coach.
You got a head coach
That's what I
that's a
don't
defensive-minded head
A
coach.
good one, too.
And they were fucking garbage yesterday. They were awful.
I was speechless watching that game because especially because at the end of the day, they had to know that Tampa was on the ropes at points against the Saints. You
And
would
they
have
didn't up their
thought
play.
that it's so.
They never upped their play, and they never got a stop. You know they were scoreboard watching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was bad. I'm sorry.
They
that was
let
bad.
Bryce Young absolutely destroy them.
Pick them apart. Pick them apart. And that's what Atlanta was supposed to be. Atlanta was supposed to be defensively sound with a good defensive-minded coach, a veteran quarterback. This is the problem I have. If you want to talk about a team that has talent, that underperformed immensely, it's Atlanta. You have two solid young running backs. Bijan's better than solid. You have Drake London, who has proven that he is a stud. You've got McLeod and you had Darnell Mooney, who had really,
Mooney
really
was
nice.
hurt yesterday. He didn't play.
He was out yesterday.
Correct.
It had really, really great seasons for you. And you have a pretty stout defense. You have stars on defense. You go out and get Matthew Judon. You bring in Jesse Bates. Like,
what was Matthew Judon doing covering running backs out of the fucking backfield yesterday?
No idea.
Your best pass rusher got beat on a fucking play on a running back out of the backfield. That made no sense to me.
That one for me, the Atlanta one, really, if you have to, that was their division to win. That was their division to win, because there was a point this year where Tampa Bay was dead to rights, and they could never get it done. They could never capitalize.
You think they would have had a better opportunity with Cousins in there instead of Penix?
No, I don't. Michael Penix isn't the problem. He's played 3 weeks. He played really well in 2 out of the 3 games.
Right.
I don't think that's the difference in their season, though. Like, maybe you get 1 or 2 games back, and maybe that is the difference in their season. Now that I'm thinking about it,
defense was awful.
But they don't deserve anything.
I'm not gonna lie. They didn't deserve to be in the playoffs, but I think in my heart of hearts, if they would have just kept rolling with Kirk Cousins, I get it. It wasn't pretty and it wasn't great, but at least you had some experience on your side. I don't think Michael Penix was the problem. And I think he's got a very, very good, promising future in Atlanta. But that's another decision that you have to put a microscope over their coaching staff and say, was the right thing to do? Take the guy that we gave a ton of money to come in and be experienced, to pull him in a situation where we're fighting for a playoff spot. I don't think that was the right move. Even though it wasn't Penix's fault, they didn't make it. I do think having Kirk Cousins in there gives you a slight advantage when you need 1 game. They needed 1 game.
Yeah, but Penix was putting up bigger numbers than Cousins did for a month. I mean,
that was Penix's best game yesterday. And
he was real nice yesterday.
It was a shootout, right? And of course, that was Bryce Young's best game also yesterday. Bryce Young, what more can we say about that guy?
I think he deservedly got another shot at starting.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I didn't
100%.
agree with them benching him either, but
no, sometimes it
I
works.
think that was good. It woke him up.
It's a developmental thing. Like, he should have been benched from the start.
Yeah.
It's you got to take time to develop him, and he's in a really good nurturing system where he's getting developed. And that touchdown, the no-look touchdown, the Seth Curry touchdown pass yesterday was so cool. I thought that was one of the coolest plays of the year when he turned around and put his hands up before whatever his name was. Who was it that caught the ball? I can't remember. Tremble. I'm excited for the Panthers' future. I think that they can do some things that could easily put them in the conversation to win the division next year. If Vero's going to be back, I feel good about year 3 Bryce Young. He needs to have a big offseason. He needs to bulk up. They probably need to help them with one more elite pass catcher. But there's a lot to like.
Yeah, you can't go into the season with scrawny little white dude as your number 1. That's not going to help.
No.
Nothing against him. He's a really good safety blanket for him, but you need to really get him a stud. A stud.
Now that we're here, and again, I don't want to spend too much time talking about the upcoming games, because that's Friday's show, and I want to talk about them in depth. But a couple other teams that we haven't really talked about, I just want to go over their season real quick, kind of figure out what went wrong.
Scarecrow's melting over here. You got to hurry up.
He'll be fine. And what their plans are for the future. And the team I want to start out with is the Miami Dolphins. Tyreek Hill pretty much came out after the game yesterday and said he wasn't going to be there anymore. Changed his profile picture on social media to a Photoshop picture of his face on Antonio Brown when he ran off and threw up deuces. Miami finishes 8-9. They lost their last game of the year yesterday when the playoffs were on the line as well. Tua sat out. Tua was hurt yesterday. Tariq didn't play much. What is everybody's thoughts on what went wrong with Miami and what their outlook is for the future?
Jalen Ramsey Instagrammed a cryptic quote, too, about how he doesn't want to be there anymore. They'll get rid of those guys that don't want to be there. Uncle Sam?
Well, let's let the pink
Mike
elephant out of
McDaniel,
the
they
closet
announced Mike
here.
McDaniel will be back as well.
I think Mike McDaniels is dog shit. Everybody thinks that he's this guru. I don't see it anymore. You know why? You had the fastest receiver in football, who's not the fastest receiver anymore. He's not even a quarter
Hold
of
on.
what he was
That
last.
guy gave up. That
Not
guy
even a
gave
quarter
up.
of what he was last year, dude. Not even a quarter.
They
His
can move on from
dedication
him.
is done.
They can move on from him and be okay. They can
they
get a
need
haul
to.
from, and they should. You have Waddle, and this
Yeah.
is a really good wide receiver class. You go get a wide receiver in this class to pair with
Yeah.
Waddle. I'll feel really good about Miami with the healthy Tua. They bought themselves a year with all the injuries they had on defense. Those
Yeah.
guys come back next year, and Chop Robinson's a year into the system.
You know what? I'm. You got to figure out what you're going to do with the Tua thing. I mean, you can't have somebody that's not going to be able to
Play.
play. You know, you need a guy that can play all 17, 18 games, and this guy can't do it. So you need to really take a long look in the mirror and see what you got to do to either make him better or move on. You know, so
I
at this
agree
point,
with you there.
I'd say they got a lot of fucking decisions to make. They're going to dump some huge roster money and send some of these guys packing. That's what they should do. And Mike McDaniels, I don't know. The owner needs to look at him.
Some of those aging guys, I think, are going to be gone. Some of those guys that don't want to be there, I think, are going to be gone. You got to figure between Jalen Ramsey and Tyreek Hill, you have an obscene amount of money tied up. And you eliminate both of them. I think that's huge. I think you do indeed get a haul back for Tyreek from a team that could.
I don't think
very
so, dude.
easily
I
a
don't think you
contender.
would get as much as you think for him anymore.
You can get like a 2 or a 3. You could do that.
I
That's a
just-
lot for a player like that.
Yeah, but I just don't think he's got it anymore, man.
No,
I really
He
don't.
gave up. He gave up.
It's not about giving up. I just think physically
He
he's
threw in
starting
the
to
towel
regress,
this
and we
year.
watched it right in front of our own eyes that he's not the player that he was last year.
This is the thing. I think he hung it up right when Tua went down. And if you go back to that stretch where Tua was hurt, I mean, they lost it. That offense was so putrid, if you guys remember. If they flip one of those games, we're not having this conversation. They're in the playoffs. The game against Tennessee, the game against Arizona. I mean, there were some really bad losses in there that if they flip one of those, they're in the playoffs. They need to make sure going into next season, the number one priority for them needs to be a viable backup if you're going to roll with Tua. Somebody who you can rely on to go out there and win a couple games if he does miss time. That's to me, if you need a guy who if he has to start 2 or 3 or 4 games, he at least gives you a chance to win a couple of them.
We had
If
said
they
that
have
earlier
that,
in the year.
I'm not really all that worried about them.
We said that earlier in the year when he went down and they brought in Skylar Thompson. What the fuck are they doing,
Yeah.
dude? If you have aspirations of winning your division, you better have an answer at backup. And they don't have it. So I don't know whether you blame the coach, the GM. Who do you blame for that?
It's a management issue, in my opinion.
Huh?
I think that's a GM issue, in my opinion.
I do too. I don't like that. And I think the coach
All
is
right.
not stepping up and saying, hey, we need a viable backup here. It's ridiculous, dude.
I want to move on. And again, I'm hopping around to teams that we really haven't talked about yet. And I want to talk about Cleveland. Some news came out today about Deshaun Watson that he had a setback in his rehab for his Achilles injury. Talk about a disappointment. I'm pretty sure that there was a lot of publications, including Uncle Sam, that thought Cleveland could win the division this year. So, with that said, after a 3-win season and a minus 177 point differential, where does Cleveland go from here?
What do you think?
They're going to draft a quarterback.
Quarterback.
And what do they do with Deshaun Watson?
If he's healthy, they'll play him. And then you at least
He'll be on IR all next year.
You'll at least have your contingency plan with whoever you draft, because again, this league has a developmental issue, so you need to develop your quarterback. And if sitting behind Deshaun Watson's the best way to develop your quarterback, that's fine. You'll have to lose. They'll have to take it on the chin. They'll have to lose for another year. And then best case, Deshaun Watson turns it around and he's good if he plays. Or whoever they pick, Shador or Cam Ward, is good enough. They don't have pick one, right? Who's pick one? The Titans?
I believe so. I'm looking right now.
I think it's Titans, Browns, Giants.
Titans, Browns, Giants, Patriots, Jaguars.
Yeah, it's shaped up nicely for the quarterback needy teams. I think the Titans very much could go quarterback at one, and they'll be fine doing it. It's tough for the Browns. I feel for Browns fans because they're similar to us, and they had a taste with Baker, and for some reason the organization didn't wait long enough there. It's really strange.
That was a bad fucking decision, dude.
Horrible.
That sets you back for the next decade, dude.
Horrible.
Yeah, terrible.
What about Kevin Stefanski?
I think he's a good coach because there is a correlation with him coming there and there being success. It's just a bad roster now. Like, you look, Stefanski was the same coach last year that took Joe Flacco to the playoffs and won, 10, 11 games?
Yeah.
Whatever it was. I don't think he's the problem. I think that they had major issues on offense this year. No quarterback, no Nick Chubb for half the year.
Their defense regressed.
They traded their best receiver. Yeah, I just think that they have work to do in the offseason on their offense.
Real quick, moving on. The Tennessee Titans, you think that who do they take with that first overall pick?
A quarterback.
Which quarterback?
It's Cam Ward or Shador Sanders.
Do you think if they pick Shador, he's going to go to Tennessee?
Do they keep who's coaching?
Yeah, he's not going anywhere.
You don't think he's going nowhere?
Unless it's a playoff team, I don't think there's going to be any more firings. It would be playoff team, Raiders. That's it. Like, they would have happened by now. This is Black Monday. They literally, there's
first year guy, no quarterback. It's hard to fire him.
Pardon?
Huh?
It's hard to fire a first year guy who did not have a serviceable quarterback.
Gerard Mayo.
I don't know about the serviceable quarterback thing. I mean,
Gerard Mayo got fired with Drake May.
It's better than what's going on in Tennessee, but
better than what went on in Tennessee. I think
that's
that
what
the
I'm
Patriots, all the way around, were a better team than the Titans.
you might be right.
You know,
Gerard Mayo got fired with a good quarterback. It's hard to fire a guy in his first year who doesn't have a quarterback.
So what do? You draft a quarterback. You already got one there, and you let them battle it out and see who wins. And I'm cutting Will
Levis, dude.
What?
I am cutting Will Levis. Will Levis is not the future starting.
All I'm saying is this. All right, you're going to put either Cam Ward or Shador Sanders into a camp with a guy that's already fucking been there. That guy's already going to have the advantage. That guy's going to beat him out.
I don't know if I see a situation where Will Levis is there next year. I don't. It's done. It's tried. It's tribulated. It's done. It's Mac Jones. It's Mac Jones, dude. It's Mac Jones. Get him out of the building.
Okay. Do you think Mac Jones is better than Trevor Lawrence?
No, in no way, shape, or form. But I think Will Levis could be a serviceable backup somewhere, is what I'm saying. Will Levis is not the franchise quarterback of an NFL team that is going to take you into the playoffs. He's not.
You don't think that Will Levis was thrown into a position that was too much?
Yeah, 100%. But that.
Yeah, well, yes, he was. But there's been a lot of guys who are thrown into dog shit situations, and you could see it, right? Like with Drake May, you can see it. Like Drake May is going to be good. Drake May could be a franchise quarterback. Will Levis has been given multiple shots to grab something and look decent, and he hasn't.
He looked pretty good yesterday. He was throwing that ball. He was really putting that ball down the field. Am I wrong? Am I wrong there?
I'm not gonna. But I'm not gonna.
You probably didn't see it.
No, I did see it. I watched. I watched the 1 p.m. games on Red Zone. I'm not going to invest too much in week 18 Will Levis because weeks 1 through 17 Will Levis were.
Well, I mean,
it wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough.
In and out.
It was rough. It was a rough year. rough year. The Las Vegas Raiders, what are they going to do? What do they need to do?
They need a quarterback. They're not going to get a quarterback.
Okay,
Unless it's in free
I'll point
agency.
a little bit more. Does Antonio Pierce make it through this offseason?
That's a good question. A part of me is on that, well, it would have happened by now train because it was a disaster year for them. And then the other part of me is like, well, I can see them giving him a longer leash because the players do like him. I don't know.
You know what? I truly think that some of these teams are waiting for this playoff situation to kind of go through itself and see who's available by the end of the year. And I think you could see some guys at the end of February here getting their asses, getting their papers and being out. Maybe some guys that you never would thought, a Mike McCarthy or somebody like that.
Do you think Kirk Cousins ends up in a Las Vegas Raiders jersey next year?
Possible.
Yeah, it's a good spot for him. It's a really good spot for him.
Moving on. The New York Giants. They're now picking at 3. Do you guys believe that both Tennessee and Cleveland are going to take the first 2 quarterbacks off the board? And if you do, what do the Giants do with pick number 3?
They still have things that they can do. They still have needs that they can address. A lot of people think that Cleveland is going to go with a tackle, which I could see. Maybe today's news changes that a little bit. The Giants need one of those quarterbacks. They need Shedeur Sanders. I think that would change a lot for them. They got some really good pieces. Malik Neighbors is damn. And I love what I saw from Tyrone Tracy this year. And you start building out the back end of that defense. You're building from the line out. Maybe that's why Mara's committed to Joe Shen, is he wants to see how it goes through. He wants to see this whole thing get executed. It's too late to turn back now.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's clear that they need a quarterback though. So you start there. And maybe they're a team that's a prime candidate to trade for one or find one in free agency, but you need a quarterback, especially in that division where there's good quarterback play. You need a quarterback.
Uncle Sam, anything?
I agree.
The Chicago Bears.
They're also wisely casting a wide net, and I appreciate it. I appreciate that for Chicago. They've put in requests on both Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson, I believe. I still think Vrabel is an outstanding fit there with a good offensive coordinator. But they're casting a wide net, and credit to Chicago for doing that. That's how you start. And we'll see how it goes. We'll see where it goes from there.
Do you think there's a possibility Chicago ends up as a playoff team next year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Caleb Williams is outstanding. I thought he had a great second half of the year. They got a big win yesterday. Good for them. They just kind of need to find the guy that can change the culture, change the toxic mindset, and string the whole thing together.
They need an OC there bad. They need a good offensive coordinator there that can play to the strengths of what they have.
Okay, my final question is, are they going to get it right or will they fuck it up?
Talk to me in 2 weeks.
The Bears do have a way with fucking up coaching hires. The New Orleans Saints.
Aaron Glenn.
Do you think they keep Rizzi?
I can see it. I could totally see it, and I think he's done enough to win the job, to be honest with you. But again, I think this is the worst of the jobs, of the 5 current open jobs, because there's just this weird mix of like old and new, and they haven't had an identity in years. And it's hard to be the guy after the guy. It's hard to be the guy after Sean Payton. It's hard to be the guy after Drew Brees. So now we're at the guys after the guys that took over there. if that makes any sense. And I think you need to go and get a quarterback, and I think you need to find a head coach that makes sense. Aaron Glenn makes a ton of sense there. The players that are currently there love Rizzi and responded to him really well. But you gotta get it right. You gotta cast a wide net, and you need to be sure that Rizzi's the guy, and you're only sure of that by talking to other people. So it's too early to say. I got to see where these interviews go.
So they have an opt-out on Derek Carr going into next year. Do you think that they take it? Do you think Derek Carr is their quarterback next year?
It depends on if they find someone in free agency, because that might be their best avenue, is finding a quarterback, making a transaction for a quarterback. It might not, the best avenue might not be drafting one, because they can't draft one high. So they might have to settle for Kirk Cousins. They might have to settle for another year of Derek Carr. Like, it's just way too early to tell right now.
Where are they picking?
The Saints are picking 9.
9?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Genty.
Do they need a running back?
Kamara's getting old.
This has them, a mock draft I'm looking at has them taking a tackle, has them taking Will Campbell. Didn't they just take a tackle? Didn't they take Talisi Fuaga?
Last year.
Yes.
Trench is out. That makes sense for Aaron Glenn if that's where he's going. He built Trench is out.
And finally, there's 2 more teams I want to talk about, so we don't have to talk about them. The Arizona Cardinals, first and foremost. Again, there was a point this year where we said that NFC West was theirs to win. There was a point this year where we said Kyler Murray should be an MVP candidate. And ultimately, they finished 1 game below 500 and missed the playoffs. What is the outlook for the Arizona Cardinals? Do we believe in the staff there, and do we believe in Kyler Murray?
I don't know if I believe in the staff. I'll give them a little credit on the injuries. I've always thought Marvin Harrison was very overrated going back to Ohio State, but he's still a lot better than what he was on the field this year. He's a lot better than that. There's a reason he was picked 3. I think they need Kyler Murray's always needed really attentive care for him to be unlocked to his fullest. And I think they need to go and find that really attentive person if you're going to keep Jonathan Gannon. Jonathan Gannon's a good coach. He's a good coach. The players like him. He's good atmosphere guy. He's got those guys working hard, but they just couldn't piece it all together this year. So I think they need someone that can keep Kyler Murray in check. And if they don't, they're in trouble because they have a lot invested in him.
They need more weapons, dude. They don't have enough weapons on offense. I don't think they have enough weapons on offense.
I think they currently have the best pass-catching tight end in football in Trey McBride. And, yeah, I mean, after his year, I guess you can say they don't have enough weapons.
Outside Harrison
didn't do anything.
He was a disappointment.
Again, I think Marvin Harrison was always overrated at Ohio State, but he's still very good. He's still amazing. And it's there. Like, we've seen it. It's on tape. And he should have been a lot better than he was this year. So I'm still holding out hope on Marvin Harrison because I know he's capable of really spectacular stuff. But that's a huge investment.
He has no rapport with Murray. None.
That's bad.
None. That's bad. You got your first-round pick, the first-round pick that you took very high, and he has no rapport with your quarterback. So sooner or later, you're going to have to address the big pink elephant in the room. Is it going to be your 5'0" quarterback, or is it going to be your wide receiver that you took high enough to get another quarterback?
Finally, I want to discuss briefly the last place team in the NFC West, which is the San Francisco 49ers. So players are eligible to sign extensions today, and there was a projection leaked for quarterback Brock Purdy, who is eligible for an extension. And that's a 5-year, $290 million contract with $180 million in guarantees. That's an annual value of $58 million, making him the second highest paid quarterback in football, below none other than Dak Prescott. So, with that being said, number one, San Francisco won 6 games this year. Kittle's a free agent. Greenlaw's a free agent. Purdy is a free agent. Kyle Shanahan's seat, is it hot? If they do not sign, if you're going to say they shouldn't sign Brock Purdy, what should they do?
There's no scenario where they don't sign Brock Purdy.
I agree.
They could franchise him. They could
Do you don't
franchise
think
him.
there's not a glimmer that they don't sign Brock Purdy to a long-term deal?
There's something. This is a bigger picture conversation that I don't want to have now, and I'm excited to have it in the off season when we have less to talk about. But this is a thing, and it's that we project these narratives. Like, we project that the Vikings need to make a decision on J.J. McCarthy versus Sam Darnold. No, it almost never happens, too. And there's no scenario where they're going to move on from Brock Purdy. It's just not going to happen. Just like I think there's no scenario where the Vikings are going to move on from Sam Darnold or J.J. McCarthy, because they don't have to. They hold all the cards. So I think we need to take a step back. They're going to sign him. There's where things might change is maybe they move on from Trent Williams. Maybe they buy him out. Maybe they rethink some of the other big contracts that they have. They restructure Nick Bosa. You know, like, those are the ones that you need to look into. They're not going to – maybe Purdy doesn't get that $200 million contract, but Brock Purdy's going to be the quarterback next year, and they're going to sign him to a substantial amount of money.
Do it now. It's cheaper.
What's this projection for San Francisco next year?
I think they'll bounce back. They had a lot of injuries this year and a lot of distractions. I think they'll bounce back fine.
Yeah, the distractions and that, they got to clean up what's going on over there. They had a lot of bullshit in their locker room. People fucking spouting off. They got to show them who's boss.
Finally, I want to jump back to what we started the show with to end it, which was the Detroit Lions. So, obviously, number 1 seed, don't have to play for 2 weeks. Hopefully, some guys that are nicked up get a little bit healthier. Hope they have 2 weeks now to prepare for pretty much everything. They have home field advantage throughout. And I know on Friday, Uncle Sam said he might feel better about the Lions losing and having to go on the road than he would if they had 2 weeks off and home field advantage throughout. Today, sitting here, how do we feel about the Lions? 1, getting the break. 2, getting the home field advantage. Are you worried at all about any attrition, regardless of who they have to face 2 weeks from now? What are our thoughts on the Lions essentially cleaning house and getting everything they could?
I'm with Uncle Sam on the break scaring me a little bit.
I hate the break.
A little bit, but they need this. They need this. They need vacations. They haven't had a break since week 5. This buys them time. Terrion Arnold popped his foot yesterday. This buys him he says he's going to play. I doubt it. But this buys him time to heal that injury. This buys them time to get Rakestraw back. This buys them time to get their mind right into you know, we just had this crazy stretch for the last literally 13 weeks. This buys them time. But most importantly, I think home field, like you saw it yesterday, I thought the crowd did make a difference yesterday. I think having home field is huge. I think having to go to Philly in the cold is going to make a difference. I think not having to go to the Rams next week, it's going to make a difference. I think having a shot at the lowest seed, if it's the Packers, if it's the Commanders, and I do think they're going to end up playing the Commanders. If it's the Vikings again, I think that's going to make a difference. I think there's a lot that was at stake. And just winning a game that you needed to win is it's a good feeling. It's a really good feeling.
Uncle Sam?
No, I agree. I thought maybe, you know, when they went on the road last year to Frisco and they came out the way they did, I just did not see that game transpiring the way it did. And I just don't want to see them come out flat. And that's what they do. Every time they're off, they come out, they're flat. And thank God that they're at home, because that might be the only thing that'll save them is being at home.
Godspeed. Gentlemen, do we have anything else to add? Is there anything else we need to discuss going into the week? Obviously, we'll be back Thursday this week, because Bruce has a big skiing trip planned on Friday.
Jacqueline, do you want to go with Bruce skiing? Can you ski? Let us know in the chat.
Anything to add?
I'm just wondering if Jacqueline has a Dorothy outfit on at home.
I would also.
If you're unsure what Uncle Sam is referring to, you can check out our story on Instagram.
sorry?
That's at Tipball.
His name ain't the Tugboat anymore.
I
it's
said, if you're
Scarecrow. The Scarecrow Venditti.
Bruce the Scarecrow, Venditti.
That's it.
Oh, wow. Zolo, anything?
I prefer the goo. Man.
No, I'm excited to pick the games. I've already picked them in my head, but I'm excited to pick the games this week, and I'm excited to have a weekend off. Oh, we have college games, too. We have a college game Thursday and one Friday.
Yes, we do. I forgot about college.
We have a college game Thursday, a college game Friday. We have, is it 2 football
The
games?
AFC games are on Saturday.
Are there 2?
2 of them.
2 Saturday.
2 of them,
And then
correct.
3 Sunday.
You have 2 NFC games and an AFC game on Sunday.
And then Monday Night
And then
Football.
Monday Night Football is the Lions.
So we got good
the
football.
Lions.
Hypothetically, no, it's Rams Vikings.
Vikings.
So hypothetically, we have good football all throughout the week. I'm excited for that Texas Ohio State game. Should be fun.
That's going to be a fun one to watch. The Penn State Notre Dame game. How do you feel about that one? Notre Dame a 2-point favorite over Penn State.
I think Penn State's going to win that game. I think if I had to bet right now, it's going to be the all Big Ten college football championship game. And I think Ohio State's going to roll Penn State. But who am I?
Uncle Sam, your thoughts?
I don't know. Notre Dame's defense was outstanding last week.
I agree.
I just
And I like what Marcus Freeman
Yeah.
has them doing, but also I don't like
I agree.
offensively. I got a problem with everything they're doing.
yeah,
so.
they're not explosive at all, but defensively they're very good.
Godspeed. Well, with that being said,
Oh wait, I got one
I
thing to
think-
add.
go.
Michigan State basketball, I don't really care about them. They're playing really well right now. Michigan basketball playing really well right now. The Pistons are 3-0 in 2025. They haven't lost a game. The Wings are 4-1. They only lost the first game since hiring Todd McClellan. They're 2-0 in 2025. The Lions are 1-0 in 2025. No team around here has a loss this year one weekend. Pistons are looking good. If they win tonight, they're 500. The Wings are technically only 4 points out of a playoff spot. I don't think it's going to happen, but there's a lot to like around here right now. It's a great time to be a Detroit sports fan.
And in 2 weeks, we have a home Lions game, which, wink, wink, we'll be giving away tickets for. Who just gasped?
Me.
Which one gasped?
Me, but I had a feeling that was coming.
Yeah, we'll go deeper into that on Friday. I don't think we need to deal with that today, but I think that wraps the Week 18 recap, the last regular season recap. I know Uncle Sam's jumping for joy.
I'm so fucking happy this is almost over.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Tip Balls Podcast. Make sure to follow our socials, Instagram and Twitter at Tip Balls, TikTok at Tip Balls Podcast. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Music, make sure to check us out on YouTube or TikTok and either follow or subscribe so you get notified when we go live. Mondays and Fridays usually, but not Friday this week because Bruce is going on a snowboarding trip. So it's going to be Thursday around 5. And with that said, thank you so much for watching. We will see you on Thursday.